getting back to this study. So Les Binet and Peter Field, we learned that sales activations, which is sort of this blue line, this blue sort of jagged line that you see here, produced big short-term effects. Like you can run a lot of traffic and you can get to a level of scale running website conversion campaigns, swapping out your creatives, doing creator content, UGC, doing all the tips and tricks like separating out your levels of traffic, enhancing your sales funnel, increasing your CRO, doing all that sort of stuff. You can do that. You can reach a level of scale using that on the Meta platforms, doing high intent based keywords like in the personal injury niche, car accident attorney, Scottsdale, Arizona. Like there is a level of traffic and a level of scale which you can achieve by going after those short-term sales activations. Now, what Binet and Field found is that they're short-term effects. They decay quickly unless you continue to spend. There's no residual effect. It's like if you're running an ad and you're a PI lawyer and somebody clicks on your ad, there's really no brand, there's no long-term effects. All they're looking for is a solution in the here and now. And that prevents a business from scaling. The combination of the two is where the real sweet spot is. And that's what they really wanted to study. Like in theory, Binet and Field said, okay, well, this in theory makes sense, but let's go out and test it. So they developed a framework for thinking about marketing effectiveness by looking at 996 campaigns, okay, this is through multiple platforms, over 30 years. This predates like Google pay-per-click and, Meta ads for damn sure, covering over 700 brands in 83 different categories. And what they found is that the effect of brand building is much more longer term and it decays more slowly, and it actually accumulates over time to drive long-term profit and growth. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can actually sort of see the effects of this. And so brand building in combination with activation or conversion campaigns start to produce long-term gains in sales. But it also
really impactful transition you just made, Ralph. We can't just glaze over that comparison between what happens between sales activation and brand building. If you're not watching, the sales activation is a muddy hill. You climb up, you fall down. 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 You never make any real progress. Yeah. And then you compare that, and it's a graphic that's overlaid to brand building, which is now a staircase. Yeah. And you climb up, 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 one step at a time.
Yeah. And this is what, in the conference that I went to, the Performance Marketing Summit, they actually used examples of this and how do big brands like Allergan, like now Athletic Greens, Kate Spade, like how do they scale? They don't do it by living down in, best cosmetic for rosacea keywords. Yeah, they do all that. They compete down here, but what they do really effectively is they build this stuff. And you can see the brand building sort of gains over time. They build their own individual unique brands so that what happens is that the long-term gains in sales actually reduces price sensitivity. You're no longer trying to compete against who's got the lowest price in that high intensity or high intent-based keyword phrase world on Google, or website conversions for your coaching program on Meta. You're competing against every other coaching program, not only people that are directly competing against you for your type of coaching, but every coach everywhere and all the personal development people. It's a bloody red ocean. And you can only reach a certain level of scale with those types of campaigns. And the big brands realized this. And so Binet and Field, they did this study and they realized that brand building starts to outperform sales activation at a certain point in time. And they say it's about 6 months. So when we were talking to a client of ours who spends millions on sales activation ads, both Google and on Facebook, They're like, we have reached a point where, and our team is really, really good at this, like really good at lowering their cost per acquisition, scaling as much as we possibly can, Google and Facebook together, booking as many appointments as possible. We're using offline conversions, obviously, in their case it's procedures sort of at the back end. There's a lot of ways in which you can build a business. And it's a very successful business. Like they are an 8-figure plus business, but they reach this level of scale. They reduce some costs, but they can't get to that next level until they do this. And they realize it and they understand it. And they're a very mature group of individuals who understand marketing and they understand really this study. They realize that the big brands don't muddle around in those lower echelons. Yes, they have the sales activation campaigns, but they combine it with brand building. And at a certain point, like I said, right around the 6-month mark, when you do both of these things together, all of a sudden, that's when you really start to scale. And we see it all the time in the personal injury law niche. So personal injury law is one of those, bloody red ocean areas. And I've used that as an example here. But at a certain point, when we start to activate both brand building and high intent based keywords at about the 3 to 6 month range, all of a sudden, the brand starts to drive a lot of the brand searches, trade name searches, product-based searches that through awareness and through the top level campaigns, the awareness and consideration campaigns they're the ones that are being Googled. All right. As opposed to the very competitive car accident attorney, Albuquerque, New Mexico keyword. Instead, they're now Googling the actual name of the law firm. Right. And that's the reason why you see so many PI attorneys have billboards, do a lot with TV. They get this. The combination of the two is where the real sweet spot is. And if you really know what you're doing on the Google side, especially in that space, and on the Facebook side, this is where it really comes together and you reach massive, massive scale.